Welcome back, everybody. And, we are now in our third match of the day for the first week of Hearthstone. So, first we had, a couple matches. We had a 3-0 sweep in the first round, a 1-3 in the second. And now we are going to the third with KingMeelo and Paperninja. Paperninja is looking really good, with the 33 legend rank in NA actually, and KingMeelo looking at a Diamond 4 right now. Overall, just great standing from these guys. And today I am joined by old Wida over here. So how are you doing, man?
I am doing just fine. I'm excited to get to watch some Glee at Hearthstone. It's not a scene that I'm too familiar with, although I do have heard the murmurings about Paperninja, pretty phenomenal player. Obviously, you're talking about him being top 33 on ladder right now. They're speaking a player that, if you are familiar with higher ends of North American Hearthstone, you probably would have heard about. KingMeelo, obviously. I don't know too much about, but again, these players are teammates, right? They are from the same university of coming out of Santa Cruz, so obviously they probably have prepared together, right? It is at the end of the day, that's probably why you would from the same universities. There's no real reason to not prepare together, even if you are facing against each other in the first week, because every amount of prep you can get in is going to help your overall, right? Because you want to help your teammates just do better.
Gen 4. Well, just to go ahead and give a little refresher on the old matches that went down. First round today, we did have old Nay Crusade against Fluffy Boy. Nate took the dub on that one, going 3-0 with that. Then we had Bog Nasty from Bay State against Killer JV in North Alabama. Killer JV, he came in with a strong opener with Ramp Paladin, but then sadly got shut down, on 3-0 at that point after that first win. Sadly, not able to get those next two games with, Secret Mage, and then after that, running into just a kind of a tempo warrior. And then leading up to this now, we do have KingMeelo and Paperninja, as he mentioned, both from UC Santa Cruz. So, I feel like these guys we're gonna have a really good matchup with these two, being very familiar with each other. And, it's just a battle on home turf, oddly enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit more background on Paperninja, because again, the player that we are the most familiar with, managed to qualify for the final Masters Tour of last year. Went a stellar 6-3, I'm pretty sure, with the earnings that they got from that. So again, that's a pretty stellar performance in the most stacked open field that you can have in competitive Hearthstone, right? Because it's players from all over the world. It also includes the Grandmasters coming into that event. So again, a player that I'm looking at it again. I think we should talk about the lineups a little bit, right, while we wait for the players to get into the game. So obviously the lineup from me, like KingMeelo's lineup for me, is a little bit out there in a sense, right? Because you have the Secret Mage, which is a deck that is very prevalent in the wild play, but in standard we haven't really seen it really do a whole lot this year so far. Has the stealth aggro rogue. Actually, no, it's the weapon rogue with the steel dancers in there. So that's a bit of a differential thing you can do in that deck, where you can go for just cut steel dancers, cut Krastenov, and just play pure out aggro. He's not just do that. He's playing the more mid-range version. He has the Monsanto Priest, which is a you just own the only minion in the solution. You just try to draw it out and just ruin your opponent's day. And he's playing pure Paladin, and that's to me it's a lineup that I have no real precedence for. Just that lineup is so out there.
Yeah, I can completely agree with you in a pure paladin standpoint. I personally use that deck to climb ladder, and I feel completely scummy for it personally. But I mean, it made easy wins all in all. But also discussing that mage, like you said, he may have flame ward and fireball, but with the lack of flame spells, the deck seems to burn through itself pretty quickly. Pun intended. But all in all, it's just it doesn't seem to have the exact standing, and as you said, in Wild, it does seem to perform pretty well with those Sleep Depressed expansions elaborating on it and giving more access and avenues to sit there and kind of capitalize those synergies. But with how the current standard format's working, it just doesn't seem like there's enough options to utilize it, enough win conditions for the deck. But Rogue and Priest is seeming pretty standard here from what I can see on
Yeah, so let's talk about the matchup we have at hand right now, right? Because we're talking about this pure Paladin deck going into the Control Priest. So obviously right now, Paperninja is getting valuable information about the fact that which cards you can expect on there. Goes for the Goody Two Shields being the most efficient minion in terms of setting up trades in the future. Obviously also, yes, Aldo Truseeker is a 5-6, but the thing is worth noting that Paperninja at the moment will not have any access to to any Librams, right? That is something that's worth noting as well. But obviously, right now, Paperninja, he has the Insight Corrupted, so can start to go for that and get that cheat out reduction. Could also take a value trade and hold Nova, if that's going to be what is going to be the important thing to go for here for them. But it's one of those turns when you are playing this Highlander Priest where just like, I have a lot of really awkward plays, but my plays aren't fantastic. And again, you have to navigate these turns correctly to really get the maximum amount of value out of this deck, because it's a weird deck to pilot. It really is, and it has really poor statistics overall on ladder when you look at it. But that's just because like a lot of the people that pilot it are just not that skilled at the deck. Again, obviously, a deck that's a lot more straightforward is the deck that KingMeelo is playing. And again, I think that's something that's worth noting, that if you just want to play straight up mid-range decks, just go for it, because again, they're fairly straightforward to navigate, and they don't play themselves. That's not what I'm saying. They are just very efficient decks to play and can definitely just punish decks like this Priest that we are seeing here from Paperninja.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on all that. You got, with pure Paladin, there's so much efficiency and there's so many threats to put on the board to constantly keep that pressure, if you get the right draws right off the bat. But with these Priest decks, there's so much kind of mind power behind them, because there's so many resources to play with, so many discoveries and things that you have to work with in order to, play the battlefield to your favor. So if you're not a skilled player or a seasoned player at that, those decisions are much harder to make. And by the time you sit there and get around to the end of your turn, that rope's already burning down.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just to kind of lay out the foundations, what people should be expecting in this matchup specifically. It is a matchup that is almost 50-50. It is slightly Paladin favored, but like 1 or 2%. But it's not to the point where it's like if you're the Priest player, you cannot win this matchup, right? Again, it really comes down to the amount of pressure that the Paladin player can come up with. You're looking at double Libram of open hand plus a Blessing of Authority. So granted, there isn't going to be no massive single target removal coming out of Paperninja. KingMeelo here will be able to just completely manifestate themselves onto this board and just really do a bit of a job here. I'm looking at this ordering here, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not this was intentional. I'm trying to figure out where we're going with this play.
Quickly.
I guess what?
Trying to reverse the Divine Shield thing.
Yeah, so it ensures that your Goody 2 shield survives and you get rid of another part of the play. But again, you're still leaving up this minion here, and we can see here that KingMeelo is going to be playing a big part in just taking value trading it. I could see myself here pushing the 4 damage to the face, because even with Apotheosis is going to come down, which would be the primary threat to like answer a singular big minion, or like actually like for Paperninja to capitalize onto this Goody 2 shields. Even then, it's not really going to do a whole lot. Like, I would bank the 4 to the face here. I wouldn't take the trade.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on that, because, eventually he's going to have to trade to that anyways, with Priest not having too many kind of targeting-based spells and things like that, neither does Paladin. This matchup does come down to minions for the most part, because all of Priest things are mostly kind of self-rejuvenating spells or, minion creation, things along the lines of that. And the longer you let those Priest minions live, the more risk that does grow from sitting there giving them life steal.
So in terms of minion spells, that can answer the Argent Bracket right now, it would be a Soul Mirror right now. But if you're seeing a Soul Mirror if you're KingMeelo, you're actually going to be kind of content with that, because again, this means that KingMeelo is going to be able to go a lot wide on the board, not really fear too much what's going to happen in the situation. He's going to be completely okay with this going on, most likely, and just chill out. So we're going to see here I think it's going to be like a creative buy chain. And worth noting that like Paperninja can still pull out the Murasant here as well if that's what they want to do, because again, Murasant here will play the Libram Pope. You will get the healing, you will get the A8 as well, so you're able to mirror the board. Obviously, it doesn't get the perfect spot here, it would have been their own face, but again, obviously, you cannot really get everything you want, so again, sort of fine. Interesting to see right now whether or not Paperninja has to read that they need to trade him. I think that is what's going to happen. Again, good recognition, because obviously, if there's a single way of pinging off this Divine Shield, then it's just a free trade.
Good trade right there, taking that into the face when he knows he has another lead ready to sit there and go. Issue is, we do see that he does have a Dragon Queen out. Straw's on board and using that Libram. sitting there, diminishing all those minions to a 1, hell, that makes, Dragon Queen that much more powerful.
Rips the death, though. Sorry for interrupting you, but that death rip is so big.
The future is clear.
Again, good ordering here. He's looking for any potential answers that could come out. I assume you're probably going to be going for Libram of Hope, just trying to regain some HP. Again, obviously, we're talking about this, right? This is like one of the reasons why this matchup is going to be going more towards the Paladin player, is that like at some point in time, Priest will just run out of answers.
Yeah.
And we're kind of reaching critical mass as of right now.
He does seem to be just, scouring through looking for things because he knows he has that backup with the Shadow Word. So he's just trying to develop as much as he can, sit there and get a presence on the board, give Paladin something to answer for once in the game.
Yeah, but even then, right, the thing is that as of right now, Paperninja has no direct way of dealing with this 8-8 coming down. And it's going to be flanked up by either the hand of a down or the shot, but I like going for the shot bot because, again, the primary way for Paperninja to punish you for this play would be to top deck a Zephyrus or a Galakrond here, right? But again, this is a 50-50 flip. This is not guaranteed to hit the 8-8. If Galakrond would hit the highest attack minion on the opponent's side of the board, it would be an absolutely broken card. But that's not the case right now. And again, the real big issue here for Paperninja is the fact that if he goes for the Galakrond high roll play, it's a 50-50. Obviously, could go something like the Cabal Acolyte with Inner Fire to steal away the 2-2, then potentially force the 8 to hit into the taunt, and then try to like run it back in a different way. But it's nowhere near perfect right now for Paperninja. Yes, Galakrond, if it hits, is going to be absolutely amazing because it's full on bot clear. And I do like aiming here, like fishing for a better 1-cost spell to pair up with the Cabal Acolyte, due to the fact that the Inner Fire here will not really like do what you want it to do, right? Like an Embalming Ritual again would provide yet another wall of defense here for Paperninja in case you want to go on to that Cabal Acolyte with that.
And that would take that shot bot as well, and to make sure that if he does get around to going that Galakrond, he by any chance wants to save that Libram or, manipulate that any kind of way, Galakrond's guaranteed to hit that target.
Absolutely. So one thing that's worth noting, and one of the reasons why I prefer the Libram Paladin, which is the one that isn't the pure Paladin version of this, is the fact that when you're in a position like these, right, yes, it's all good and dandy, that Paperninja, for KingMeelo, he has multitudes of big minions here. But again, as long as Paperninja can find ways to deal with said big minions, KingMeelo really doesn't do anything compared to the Libram Paladin version, where you have those penslings that will pair up with the Libram Wisdoms, just like continuously flaying damage turn after turn after turn. And that is a draw and a half. Obviously, this Hand of the Naru will have free attack, so again, will still be dead on board as long as none of these minions go out. But the thing is that Wave Buffy right now, absolutely amazing draw. It's going to allow him to take off so much power off the board, allow him to get a few value traits here and there as well. And it's only costs him 1 mana, so it's just an absolutely perfect draw right now.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, and it opens up a lot more avenues for him to kind of breed during this turn, give him a chance to think, not exactly utilizing it for those trades, so he may not see the Wave of Apathy just yet. He's probably going to hold on to that for a little bit, but he's probably, at this point, I don't know if there's too many kind of big threats on the board that he can actually look out for. You do have, a refresh of hands, and then ways to generate those cards and get those Librams back, but as of right now, he's just trying to sit on it and wait for that Wave of Apathy to have a little bit more momentum to it.
I was just about to say, we were talking about the big threats, that Lady Lyat would be that one that he would be looking for specifically. It just comes flying off the top, and again, it's just a perfect way of reloading here. Again, good seems in getting back the Hand of a Down and getting back the Libram of Wisdom. And now, Paperninja is going to be struggling because he knows there's a Blessing of Authority, there's 2 copies of Libram of Hope in the hand. Like, he knows there's just too much to deal with, in all honesty, right? Like, there's just way too much pressure here. I don't even know if you can scam this out with Cephalic Veilweaver. Yes, you can try with the Inner Fire and just say, you know what, I have this, I'm going to go for it. But, let's see. The scam trade needs to start here, and the question is, does it do that? Penance is a good place to start. it does give you a little bit more HP to work with. It does give you another spell. As long as Paperninja has enough mana here to utilize this way rapidly to somewhat guarantee they will be staying alive, it's in an okay position, but even then, right now, this is nowhere near as good as it could be.
Yeah, there's just the likelihood of him getting something to keep him alive in that situation was just way too low. You know, you do have Galakron's Wit, which generates a random priest card, but the odds of getting something to heal him were just way too low. And then that Wave of Apathy, it didn't sit there. It wouldn't have done enough, especially having a weapon in hand. It doesn't mitigate the attack of that. So he kind of had guaranteed lethal regardless of however he approached that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily guaranteed. I guess it was because of the weapon of the hammer, right? But again, obviously, even then, just the endless onslaught of oversized minions coming down for like way too low mana cost with the Librams being recycled back into the hand. But again, I think that if you're a Paperninja right now, it's not like you're overly worried about like losing that matchup. Obviously, would like to win it because again, it's a bit of a flipping matchup. But it's not like you're going to be like, damn, I did not like. I didn't feel like winning this matchup. This matchup, however, now is a matchup that is also fairly bad for the priest, and I think that's the line of thinking that has come out when you're looking at the lineup from KingMeelo is that very much like a man of my own heart, say, you know what, I do not like priest, so let's just kill it over and over and over again. And I think that's like one of the few like really good reasons to play this Secret Mage, just the fact that it can actually potentially just kill the priest.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, it is interesting that we're seeing a Highlander priest. You know, I know that it's dominant in the meta a lot. It's been, you know, very prominent over time. But recently, you know, I personally, you know, within the diamond ranks, I haven't seen too much Highlander decks just overall. I feel like after Dragon Queen Alexstrasza got her nerf a while back, and after the whole kind of, you know, Zephrys is still prominent, but everything just doesn't feel to be as strong as it used to be. So it's very interesting to see him running this matchup against a Secret Mage.
Well, I do have something for you. I commentated a European Hearthstone tournament, an invitational, 2 weeks ago, and there were 32 players. 16 of them brought Highlander Priest. Yes, and during last weekend, I also did a tournament. We saw a load of Highlander Priest. It's just one of those decks that when you go up to the higher brackets of skill play, it just tends to be all over. You see a lot of it in the upper echelons of Legend as well. When you start moving into those top 50 areas, top 100, those types of areas, you'll see a lot of people be bringing out those Highlander Priest decks because, again, they just play out so interestingly. Talking about interesting situations here, Paperninja just going to be sitting to the face, trying to figure out which secret is. Now, this way around, he at least guarantees that there's not going to be the rigged fair game going off. And again, rigged fair game against priests specifically is so important because the thing is that if you get down on the board early, it's going to be so hard for the priest to actually deal any damage to your face because again, with a lot of the changes to a lot of the priest spells when we went into this current year of Standard, they no longer have access to any direct damage here. Getting the Janda's Barrow, however, from that Metal Soul is going to be pretty massive.
Yeah, that's a lot of value in one card right there. And, you know, I think it plays right back what you were saying about, you know, seeing it in those tournaments for the Europeans and things like that. It goes right back to those guys, you know, in high legends. They all have the game sense at this point, so they're not afraid to play these kind of complicated decks, things that require a lot of decision making, making their job a lot easier compared to some other people who may not have the game sense or the knowledge to know what things can generate and how things can chain up with each other as efficiently.
Yes, again, so obviously for those who are not familiar with Highlander Priest, essentially it's just a control deck, which relies on playing one copy of every, they can really run one copy of each card, but then they have the Zephyrus to bail them out. Zephyrus again will be generating it's kind of like a genie, right? Just you have 3 wishes, but you only get a grant of one of them, right? And I feel like you kind of use that right now. Not that anything specifically would actually be kind of good for you here, but again, the Occult Conjurers is a card that I know for a lot of the people that I test with and stuff like that, has made them really want to play Secret Mage because it's just that strong, right? It's a 5 mana 4/4 that summons another copy of itself. It's actually, it's a 4 mana card even, right? So it's just a 4 mana 8/8 over 2 bodies. That card in a vacuum is insane. And another thing that I wanted to note, a bit of a tech in KingMeelo's deck here actually, is the fact that he is running Costume Entertainer as a 2-off. with the sole purpose of actually like buffing these occult conjurers just to make them better and bigger, right? Because the battle cry is summon an exact copy of it. It's not summon another occult conjurer. So that is it's a really interesting thing that you can do with that card that we haven't really had the support in standard to just like enjoy doing yet. But it's a really cool angle to take.
Let's make something real.
I see Jane just come out. Now, neither one of these exactly have a keyword or something that could benefit him, like say a Reborn or a Taunt or something of the lines. But, you know, you do get solid stat lines. You know, it could be worse. He doesn't get a rush or anything along the lines of that. But overall, it is stats on the board. And Priest doesn't seem to have much of a kind of way clear to test one of those besides Penance as of right now. Unless he wants to sit there and trade to sit there and test those two out.
Power and trinkets.
He's going to be farming this out.
He's going to try at least, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, Veilweaver is just such a huge card. If you can let it stick, and especially sit there and get a couple buffs on it and let it live long enough, that thing becomes a huge threat.
Just a note to anyone at home, you do not want a Master Spell right now. That is going to take away the Gender's effect. So you want to figure out which one is the Mirage before you actually want to Master Spell in a situation like this. In case it ever becomes relevant, right? Because as of right now, it's really not relevant, but again, it could be in a different matchup, right? So I just ripped some power with shields, which is actually kind of nice, right? Because it's going to allow him to have a much more durable board, much easier for him. Again, power with feats is another massive one. It could even be possible for him to like stagger the renew onto a mini before like that. That's a big one to go. But again, we talked about how the actual like burst potential in this deck, right? Again, running double Cloud Prince, it's running double Fireball. That's its top end, so that's combined over the course of those 4 cards is going to be a significant chunk of 24 damage. But again, the thing is like another mage deck that's kind of made it back into the meta right now. It's been like a variant of like old school tempo burn mage that runs like all of the spell damage cards and just runs a lot of the direct damage spells. And I kind of feel like it's kind of a deck that I would prefer to play over this, right? Because the thing is that imagine if Paperninja just like rips the Soul Mirror right now. Like, what does KingMeelo even do?
Yeah, he doesn't have too many answers, you know. Even just generally speaking in the deck. Of course, I can't say that, you know, Secret Mage has too much. They have a lot of direct damage, but there's too many conditions to be met in your hand in order to sit there and get all that right off the bat, especially facing up against a Priest, to where if you sit there and do those chunks over multiple turns, he can just mitigate that and heal it back up. And it causes to be, like, just really troublesome for the Secret Mage, especially when, as I said earlier, you just burn through a lot of your cards very quickly, you know, with a lot of things being cheap. You know, those big cards being very tempting to play and needing that board establishment. There's just too much going into the decision making of that to sit there and try and actually figure out when to use what resources.
Yes, now we're going to be seeing Paperninja kind of giving over and accepting the fact that he is going to be having to accept the fact that KingMeelo will be able to activate that Rigged Fair game, right? And again, he's been playing around it very consciously for pretty much the entire game so far, but the board that he was staring down was just too strong for him to even consider giving it up. Interesting thing right now is that this hand doesn't include any secrets, but has like, but the entire hand synergizes with that, right? So that's a kind of an interesting thought right now, but Fireball coming out turn, again, just cleaning up the board. And I think that KingMeelo will get very surprised about this ping actually being the one that triggers, and I think he's going to be quite content with that as well.
Yeah, and you know, he got extremely lucky, or I'm not going to say lucky, but you know, it is a 50-50, so it really just comes down to intuition, being like, you know, which one of these minions is my opponent going to get more value of? That's probably the one they're going to sit there and try and keep alive, because from a stat standpoint, you know, you want those numbers. And usually you're not going to try and sit there and be way too smarter than your opponent to sit there and say, you know what, I may just sit there and make the larger one a decoy. It doesn't work out most of the time. But we are going to see Dragon Queen Alexstrasza come out, which is going to be huge with the Ysera drop inside of it.
Ysurd Unleashed is a pretty big one. Again, actually a bit of an interesting decision point coming out from KingMeelo here. Deciding to hold back the Zookeeper last turn when it actually would have traded quite nicely on the board. And it's kind of a weird thing as well because of the fact that like there was no real reason to hold it back. The turn of the Vile Fiend was this turn coming up right here. It wasn't a turn that we just left. So it's not like he just left it up to be eaten alive by that Vile Fiend, right? And again, obviously, yes, there were no secrets in hand to really synergize with it, but again, I think that when you're playing an aggro deck, which at the end of the day is what Secret Mage is, you really need to like utilize all your mana to the best of your ability. And again, he didn't really do that in that situation. And again, look at how much respect Kevin is paying for, because he knows that his board is not going to get cleared up unless there is like a very fringe combination of cards here. And again, Cloud Prince is drawn out, but it's no longer used as this way of closing out the game. Yes, it will get rid of that Dragon Queen like Strazza, but it's not furthering KingMeelo's game plan right now. And again, this just for the record, this matchup is nowhere near Priest favorite on paper. Like, this is a massive major matchup, and the fact that Paperninja on turn 9 can sit like this, be so comfy, and not even like bat an eye is absolutely detrimental and horrifying for KingMeelo.
Yeah, especially with the Onyx Mage Strike coming down, that's huge for him. That gives him a lot more resources in hand. And I feel like Meelo at this point is getting pretty desperate just to sit there and clear as much as he can off the board. He knows that he knows that Priest doesn't have too many direct spells to target the face or any kind of direct damage. So he's going to sit there and try it as much as possible, really just delaying the inevitable at this point, it feels like, with him not having much in hand to deal with. Meanwhile, Priest is just going to sit here and try and draw at his deck as much as possible, establish a board, and still capitalizing on the fact he used Galakrond last turn to go ahead and pop Dragon Hoof this one.
Like this right is now, he's going to give the domination down here. And it's not quite lethal as of right now, but again, it's going to be quite hard for KingMeelo to do anything with this board. Again, obviously, double Black Mage can do quite disgusting things to board, but the thing is that as of right now, even double Black Mage came to the hand right here, sorry. But against the KingMeelo, he's just gonna give it up right there, and again, I think that's totally fair. Again, obviously, sometimes the draw just doesn't pan out. I think that Paperninja can navigate the matchup quite well. But now I feel like we have to Priest out of the way, at least on the side of Paperninja. We're going to be seeing a very different series now, right? Because again, the game plan that KingMeelo was aiming for is sort of out the window right now. Again, obviously aiming towards having good Priest matchups, and that just didn't really happen here. So, and that's the thing about, again, like when you play these hard target lineups in Conquest, that you will fall back sometimes and just have to find a separate strategy to win the series, because you just didn't hit the way you needed to hit.
Ooh, now we're seeing a Road Mirror matchup here.
Versus Valir.
Rogue Mirrors they're weird.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that's worth noting here is that, is this an exact copy? I think it is. I think it's like the exact same 30. So generally speaking, Rogue Mirrors, you want to be on the coin. I'm not fully familiar with the specific build of Rogue. I play Will Kick Rogue myself, or just a different take on the weapon Rogue, like this is the pure straight up aggro Rogue. But I would much rather have the hand of Pippin just looking at right now. Double Sharpening Sword. You only really need one, right? But then you have the Steel Dancer, you have the payoff cards, Janda's Barrow as well. But now the question beckons, do you coin out a triple S? And I think the answer as of right now is yes.
Yeah, he's going to sit there and try and get that Steel Dancer down as quick as possible with the Self-Sharpening Sword. He knows that he has more cards in hand. He's going to take advantage of that and try and go ahead and snowball that weapon effect. Because even if he gets one Self-Sharpening Sword all the way down, whittles it out and gets max damage out of it onto KingMeelo, he still has a backup, and he still has plenty of time to get that Steel Dancer down, and he can buy as much time as he wants with that South Sea, being able to get a quick trade or going face with it. And once he gets around to that point where he can play Janda's, that's a completely viable option for him, because he's sitting pretty comfy right now with the placement.
Well, no, this draw here was actually pretty huge, because again, it allows Pippin to maintain board. And this matchup is all about the board. Like as weird as it might sound, is very much like, so back when Kingsbane Rogue was a thing, a lot of people thought it was all about the weapon. It's actually kind of about the board, but obviously the board here will be kind of easily dealt with. And again, just like that, we're going to be seeing KingMeelo having the bigger and better triple S, and obviously we'll have a much better payout next turn with the 5-drops. But the question is this going to be insurmountable here for payment for like Meelo, right? With the double photo coming down right now. And that's a bit of a grim one. You would really want it to battle cry right there, but you're not going to get it. And now it's going to come right back at you here. I actually would have preferred to see the Jandis, I think, over the Steel Dancer, even with the top deck of the Walking Infiltrator.
Oh, good draw here. Meelo with the Steel Dancer. I think what he was planning is, like, you know, going ahead and getting that self-sharpening sword down. He knew Meelo was going to throw out his Steel Dancer if he had it, so I think he threw it down as a guarantee, hoping that that minion that came out didn't have stealth to trade the 2/1 and the 3/3 into if need be, and switching out those Steel Dancers. But already, you know, feeling like he has more of a hand advantage, not thinking that Meelo has Jandis. But, you know, Meelo got a really good pull right there with that Steel Dancer.
It definitely did, but the thing is that I would much rather have had 2 5-drops than 1 5-drop. And yes, the Walking Infiltrator would fit out the curve quite nicely, but then let's just wind it back a bit. Like, you're going to be floating mana regardless on this turn now, right? Because you're playing the 5-drop without anything on turn 6 if you're KingMeelo. And I can understand why Paperninja right now will be looking at these trades and think they're quite awkward, because they really are. But obviously, Jando's Barrow here could come down and just, you know, clean everything up. Seeker's Pet and Fleet of Pearl Tusk are incredible minions right now. And yes, obviously, it is going to be like a potential like massive swing here for KingMeelo. But again, it's worth noting that with the self-sharpening sword in hand, with the Nudge Boost Poison, as long as a single minion sticks around the board, that is just guaranteed lethal on the following turn.
It's huge for him, especially, you know, with the Nitro Boost, as you said, the Nitro Boost Poison. Even if he sits there and, you know, if Meelo pops down Jandis as well and possibly gets a Teacher's Pet, he can do the same exact thing, you know, popping a Sap and just opening that up for him. But Meelo doesn't seem to be opting for any kind of, you know, trades here so far. He does have an Eviscerate, but that's only going to clear one of those things.
Yeah, a bit of a mishap potentially, at least in my book. Not trading with the Trial Runner, even after its first trigger, it's already done its job. Yes, this is an incredibly greedy line, and again, obviously, yes, it would have been quite hard for Meelo to completely fully trade out the board, and I can kind of respect this line. Obviously, we're going to be seeing lethal, especially with the Safety deck on the top. It's just a mega lethal right now. Self-sharpening shot's going to come down, Nitro Boost Poison coming out, Safety deck into the face. I don't even want to count. All I know is that it's lethal. Isn't even going to use that. Always just use the top deck lethal, you know? You just always do that. The thing is that it's something called a Ronnie rule. Okay, Ronnie is a Danish Hearthstone player that used to play a lot of Pirate Warrior. Just always use the top deck lethal, because again, it's a mental game at the end of the day. A lot of times, if you can like do the mental thing and like tilt your opponent a little bit, you might gain a few percentages, right? And that's a very important thing to note. And that could be everything. But again, Paperninja going up 2-1, very dominant fashion so far. Obviously now he's left with the Libram Paladin, which is different from the PR Paladin we saw before, but it should be definitely be an interesting one to follow, at least in my book.
And let's see.
Jaina versus Uther.
So he does have to get that Secret Mage over with. Now, how do you feel like it's going to sit there and match up against this Paladin? Because Paladin has heals, you know, he has more board control, and he has a lot more big minions than, you know, say Priest usually would, unless you're running that Highlander version of it.
I mean, stats don't really tend to lie, and the stats aren't great for the Paladin play. Again, I suppose things worth noting here. Eldor Attendant on turn 1 in this deck is absolutely incredible. Obviously, there's not going to be the follow-up that you long for a lot of the time. Like you're looking at the greats, like you're looking at the great into Living Wisdom, for example. Right? That's not going to be a thing as of right now. But again, Your Paperninja now, right, you're still very, very comfortable about this. Again, a 1-3 on turn 1, it just trades so cleanly. Obviously, like Arcane Flag Mage coming down just as a 3-2 is obviously quite solid. I don't really know how the way that Paperninja has built this deck specifically helps or changes the matchup going into the mage. But again, with the healing package of the Lightforge Blessing being added in, I think that actually might help you out. And again, obviously, I really like this heads-up play here. You do not want to give any secret trigger over here going to turn 3 of the mage, again, right? Because that would be one of the ways that Paperninja could have been blown out of the game here, would have been the fact that the current Soul Mage would have come down here with the secret Arcane Flag Mage would have triggered, the Secret Keeper would have triggered, and everything would just have gone completely to the wayside. And now, Paperninja is in a much better position to answer this.
Especially, do you think that Netherwind Portal was actually the right move? Because, it almost seemed like a gamble at that point. With you have Red Fair Game inside of your hand, like, it seems like, are you sure? Are they going to sit there and trade that? Or is it more of a, I'm so confident that they're going to go face, I might as well just go ahead and run the Netherwind?
So the thing, at least that I see it right, is the fact that you're looking at the potential outline trades that would present themselves. And there is not really any trades, right? Because you know that if there would have been a Liberator of Wisdom, would have come down in the previous turn, would have saved some spells, stuff like that. You would have seen it, and you didn't see it. So obviously you know for a fact that it's not there. And now it's the hour of truth, as the counterspell actually is going to trigger and prevent the spell burst from going off here. And that means that this Cloud Prince is going to come down for full-on bot control, even if it's just a 4/4 here. Get rid of the High Abyss Allura, ensuring there's going to be no filling of the deck is going to be absolutely critical. And now this could be a position where you would find Meelo being able and being comfortable in playing out that rigged fair game.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, because at this point, he can sit there. If he really wants to trigger it this turn, he can just basically, unless, he has a Lightforged Hammer in hand, which Meelo wouldn't be sure of, he's going to sit there and run rigged fair game. But instead, trading this out, not running it just yet, rather reestablishing himself on board.
Moonfang is so good here. There's no way you don't get the Plate Breaker to get triggered here. There's no way. So Moonfang is just amazing. Like, when you generate off of things, it's really, really, really good. And obviously you can do some really disgusting things with the Increase, where you just keep on copying it. It's just amazing. But this turn for Paperninja is kind of scuffed in a sense, right? Like, you're looking at a turn that is not going to be great. Is this ever just Penflinger your... He's actually going to guess this correctly. Again, this is pretty straightforward if you know what you're thinking about and what's in your opponent's head. But having to give it a Penflinger right now is anything but amazing here. But talking about amazing top decks, Arcane Flag Mage going to come down, clean up the board, allow this 8 damage to be pushed face by KingMeelo. And again, Paperninja now, he's on the back foot. He has nothing correct to do, but he can play the Devout Pupil. But again, it's not really going to do enough as of right now. And this game, slowly but surely, is looking like we're going to be going to Game 5. It's just one of those things, and our rigged fair game comes, and it's just a misery compiler of all sorts coming out here.
Yeah, everything's definitely going right for Meelo this time around, and I think he's very happy, A, to sit there and feel comfortable in this matchup, but B, also to get this matchup out of the way going forward. Because I think he struggled with this Secret Mage the first time around, and going back around to the second time, thankfully facing a favorable matchup, he wants to sit there and definitely kind of settle himself down and give him some breathing room and not go ahead and get shut out in this game.
But the funny thing is that this match is actually favored for Paladin, but I don't really know where this went wrong, and I think it's also worth noting that there aren't enough people that are playing out the Secret Mage on the ladder to get a general feel about how the matchup's supposed to go, or how it's supposed to be played out, or whether or not the stats are correct, because your sample sets you have is very, very small, all things considered, right? Because you can't determine a matchup over a couple of hundred games. You need way more than a couple of hundred games to figure out how a matchup is supposed to be played out. And again, maybe this matchup actually is just Mage favorite at the end of the day, but it's hard to say, right? Because a lot of core components were lacking, but now we are going to be going into Rogue versus Paladin, a bit more of a match that has been traversed, has been looked at in the past. and we kind of know what to expect from as well, I would say, at least in my own opinion. It's a matchup that you definitely have probably encountered on ladder if you played either of these decks. And I will at least, like, and then all the stats have it as a pure 50-50, I think. Actually, it's rogue fair, but it's close. Like, it's one of those matchups that lie in, but it's like so the funny thing about matchup statistics in Hearthstone is that if a matchup is like under 55%, so like it's like 49 or 47%, stuff like that, it's essentially a 50-50 at the end of the day. And this is one of those matchups.
Yeah, and looking at the opening hand, it feels like, you know, Meelo has a lot more wiggle room. You know, if he sits there and runs out of options by any means, he already has that cutting class to go ahead and open up his hand a little bit more. But if worst comes to worst, he does have that secret passage to kind of have a little out and discover a little more answers to if Paperninja throws anything down that's way too threatening for him to deal with.
It's also worth noting that due to the way that Paperninja has teched out his Paladin list, there's not a Acidic Swampers in there, which at a specific point in time was a pretty normal tech card, but now this opener here is pretty disgusting. I'm interested to see whether or not we're going to be seeing Meelo face tank the free one, or whether he just wants to send everything to the face. And you know what? He doesn't care. He's sending everything upstairs. He just wants to end this game as quick as possible. Doesn't want to give any time over to the Paladin so that they can stabilize themselves in the game. And again, it's a move that I can respect. I feel like if you just give the Paladin time to stabilize with the taunts, with all the Liberals of Hope, stuff like that, you're just going to get at the bad end of the stick. So, definitely a respectable choice coming out right now. And again, Paperninja here, very nice cycle turn, be able to cycle through both his Salus Prides over the course of a single turn here. Ensure that the draw velocity of his deck right now is going to be absolutely incredible. And again, now he just has consistently good draws.
Yeah, and you know, he's probably going to be looking at, you know, if he doesn't pull Steel Dancer by any means, he's probably going to be most likely looking at Jandice here, because, you know, Paladin doesn't have any options left. He has 0 mana remaining this turn. Not much he can really do without utilizing that coin and, you know, doing something with it, but that still leaves a Pinflinger on the board, which, you know, in the long scheme of things, you can really manipulate those things to annoy the living stew out of your opponents. So I'm really interested to see what Meelo does here, whether he, you know, sees the Pinflinger kind of as a soft taunt, or if he just wants to sit there and keep on, you know, chugging away at the board and trying to get Paladin's face further down.
Those are premium 5s. The Crusader is so good, right? Because essentially it does the same thing twice, where you have to get through the shield and you can ping it off. Liberal of Justice, however, is a significantly good draw as well. Issue is that you're not able to trade with the Penflinger. And also, a thing worth noting here, Spell Burst, which is the overall keyword that, you know, Penflinger uses, for example, is a thing where it triggers after the spell has taken effect. So if Paperninja was to use the Wild Pyromancer here, he would not be able to get the Penflinger back to hand.
No. Which means he does have a couple of cheap spells here, but to sit there and actually get them to be useful, you know, with that twin spell right there, he would need an actual kind of established minion on board, and that would just cost too much mana for him with only having 5 right now, and he won't be able to get those rotations out with the ping flingers on the same turn.
Did I miss something in the interaction world? Or am I just stupid? Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Yeah, actually, I'm stupid here. That is on me, actually. Against pretty much any other spell, this would have been worked out the correct way. But I think that Wild Pyromancer is also is on the same trigger. Yeah, so Wild Pyromancer says after and not whenever. So that is it happens with the same trigger, meaning that the Penflingers get back into hand. But still, that's kind of flying at the top here. The Black Knight. Not really what you want to see right now.
Yeah, not the best, you know, stat line, but still nonetheless, the 4 or 5, it's something else. He's just trying to, you know, scare Paperninja right now into a place where once he does sit there and possibly get 8-8 on board, he wants to possibly have an immediate answer to it, or choke him out before he even gets a chance to
I'm
let
going to throw the book at you.
And Aldor's going to slow Meelo down for sure, especially cheapening up all those Librams that he has in his deck and the 2 that are in his hand currently.
Absolutely. Greyheart State's got an amazing card in this deck. One of the main engines and one of the main reasons why this deck is actually playable is due to the fact that that card exists, right? It's just incredible. It does whatever you want. Like, it just draws out so effectively. You play it really synergize with a lot with your early game package. And talking about early game package, Nitro Boost Poison, the main reason why these type of decks have just been taking the top spots of the ladder at the moment, it's just such an effective spell, because essentially it's a 1-mana deal 4, and it's potential to stick around to even more. So it's just so goddamn good. And we're talking about how good Paperninja was looking at the end of the game number 3 with the priest, took the win and stuff like that. But unless there's a play that I'm not seeing, which I very well could be, it's looking kind of grim here for our pre-favorite.
Which the most he could have really done there was, running what he did the other turn, sitting there trying to sit there and get that flame burst off, getting the life steal, just getting as much kind of rejuvenation back onto his hero as he can. But that seemed like the only kind of out he had in that situation. That doesn't seem as if he has another one at this point. He could sit there and go, get a Libram, then a Consecrate, but he doesn't have a Consecrate in hand, and even then that would be too much mana for him. There's just if with the Libram discount, it could have happened, but it would have been his whole turn, and Meelo would have just followed up with the self-sharpening sword once again, just making himself more powerful.
Well, worth noting that KingMeelo doesn't run Consecrations attack. It's a card that you will only see in the pure Paladin versions of the Paladin deck. Card is simply not good enough to be played in the Libram versions, in the actual quote-unquote good versions of the deck. But again, obviously, we saw 5 games of Hearthstone, something that we haven't seen all day, right? We had a quick 3-0 and a quick 3-1. Now we just take the full plate with a quick 3 and I would say quick 3 and 2. It's under an hour. That's pretty speedy 3 and 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all in all, it was really nice to sit there and see, it go to 5 games. Finally, we've sat there, and as you said, it's been mostly 3-0s, 3-1s, things of the likes. But I think, a big factor within this is these guys coming from the same school, obviously probably playing on the same team at some point in time, knowing how each other works. And I think that really played into that matchup to where these guys can just predict each other as best as possible. And that really just came into a lot of decision-making factors when deciding and making those kind of denominations in their decision-making on what to play, when to play it, and how to predict what they might have in hand and how to react to it.
Yeah, obviously, when you are in practice groups with other people, you, generally speaking, tend to get a pretty good grip about how to read the players and how they tend to play, obviously, because every player has a distinct play pattern and their preferences around holding stuff back. And it's just one of those things where it sometimes can work out in an event where you wouldn't necessarily feel like, again, obviously, going to this, I wouldn't have been surprised that if you told me that Paperninja was going to lose this, right? Because again, one of the best ladder players in the game at the moment, top 40 on ladder, amazing player overall, and obviously, I mean, KingMeelo just came in here and just took it home.
Yeah. So congratulations, KingMeelo taking it home today. All these players will have another chance to come back in week 2. It's just a round robin. It's regular season at this point. All these guys are going to be, going in a rotation, facing off against each other, and trying to increase their record overall. So Paperninja isn't out of it totally yet. He has, a whole bunch of other people to sit there and try and conquer. But, none of this would be, even possible overall if it weren't for, some of our partners that we got. One of them being Meta. Meta Pro Gaming is a full-service esports management, developmental, and consulting company. They provide coaching, college esports management, arena design, and equipment. You can visit them at metroprogaming.gg to learn more, and Respawn. And, their products are forged for all-day comfort for content creators, professional and casual players, or anyone looking up to upgrade their setup. Respawn has been battle-tested and achieves a level of comfort that leaves competitors in the dust. Live to play another day with Respawn, your battle-ready partner. Now, with everything being said and done for the most part, thank you for joining us overall. You have an awesome resume coming into this. I was shocked to sit there and, meet you, and I feel honored to sit here and, be
absolutely, man. I think that just, being able to be in all aspects of competitive Hearthstone is fantastic, right? I think it's that that's just something that is fantastic because again, like I have been around the block, but like collegiate Hearthstone is something that I have not touched, right? Like that's the thing that's worth noting, right? And I think it's just great because at the end of the day, next thing you know, like a player that you're not you haven't familiarized yourself with because they're not part of the traditional circuit, just comes into a Masters tour and just does incredibly well, right? And then you again, if you're able to like keep up with as many circuits as possible, like you just have more well posed, well positioned to do like again talk good things about them. And I'm trying to talk really good English right now, but it's 4 a.m. for me right now. It's an absolute slog for me. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, absolutely.
Hey, it's been a pleasure casting with you, Matt. But with that, do you have anything, any kind of humble abodes for the chat or for these players? Any advice, from kind of the overhead site that you have looking down on more higher league players and things at a higher degree and level of play?
Not really. Like the best thing you can do, honestly, is just like keep going at it, right? Like that's the thing. Whether it's casting, whether it's playing, whether it's management, whatever. Like just keep going at it because at the end of the day, you never know how far away you are from actually just like breaking the wall, right? Whether that's hitting top 1,000 legend, just hitting legend in general, hitting diamond 5, whatever it is, like you just gotta push through at the end of the day, right? Again, educate yourself on everything you can educate yourself upon, whether it's in game, out of game, whatever. There's so many different things and so many different aspects that plays into that, and I just think that like, once you find the perfect cocktail, fate's just gonna mash perfectly well.
Mm-hmm. Well, couldn't have said it better myself. So, congratulations to all today's winners. Good luck going forward to everybody's competitors today. And, we will see you guys and gals next week with week 2 of Collegiate Hearthstones with NECC Esports.